Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we are back and we're talking about some great news for the conservatives in the United States. Unfortunately not great news for the Canadian conservatives in Canada. But we got news for the United States conservatives because last night was an amazing night for them. They actually showed up in two important states in which, if you put context to it, this is very good for Republicans. Now, we have to talk about Georgia first because, of course, Republicans outperformed performed Democrats in deep blue Cobb County, a county that used to be pretty Republican back during the Obama era. But then, of course, Cobb County is getting more African American, and the white majority still has the advantage in Cobb County. But by this point, it's just too blue. You have white liberals mostly, college students, and some African Americans. But still, Cobb County is gone double digits for Kamala Harris. So ideally, you would be expecting Cobb County to be more liberal, and indeed it has gone liberal. The Democrats won these two districts, but obviously they have massively underperformed. You'll see these two districts. District 2 has gone for now it's important we have to talk about the districts. This is the Cobb County Commissioner elections for districts 2 and 4. In Cobb County, of course, is kind of divided. I can actually see if there's a sort of map that we can actually pull up that can actually view the we said districts, but Cobb County Commissioner districts. But yes, you'll see this is Cobb County. It's divided into 4 districts, and that includes districts 2 and 4, and you'll see they're both bordered with Atlanta. They're bordered with Fulton County, which means they're more liberal. And in my view, they're most African American. They're more African American. They're likely more liberal. And you see in the data point, it's gone solid Democratic for Kamala Harris by 34 points. That's District 2 right up here. That cuts through half of Cobb County. But then you have District 4, and District 4 went to Kamala Harris by 46 points. How did it go? What was the overperformance here? So you have District 2 of Cobb County right here. It shifted to the right by over double digits. It just went Democratic by 17.17 points. That's a solid Democrat win, but that's not the expectation. That's not the result you want, especially in a district that is very blue. Like, imagine Washington, D.C. going 60% Democratic instead of going 90% Democratic like it usually does every single presidential election cycle. We know Republicans can't win Washington, D.C. That's not the topic of conversation, but a win for Republicans in Washington, D.C. would be 30% vote share for Republicans. Republicans getting 30% of the vote resulted in Democrats probably carrying like the upper 60s or the lower 60s. That's devastating. That's basically a defeat for Democrats in Washington, D.C. So that's when you underperform the expectations and Republicans gain morale because of this. That's a win for them. They know they're not winning in Cobb County. That's not for conversation. But when they overperform the expectation, and the expectation is Democrats will blow it off by winning these districts by like 46 points or 34 points over the 20 to 15% margin, solid margin victory. That is the expectation. And you have the Democrat winning it by 17 points. Literally, if they underperformed 2 more points, the Republicans would have lost it by a likely margin for Dems. That would have been a horrible performance for Democrats. District 4, same deal, although it would have been a solid Democrat victory, as the District 4 has always been recognized as a solid district for Democrats. It is technically, in this case, the same deal, and you'll see, looking here, Cobb County Democratic Party, of course we're looking at that. Cobb County's exposing themselves. You'll see Cobb County is solid blue. You'll see they are using the likely Wikipedia margins for the Democrats. And actually, I like this map because it shows where the cities are. Marietta is in the 3rd district. The 2nd district, actually, I think the district lines have changed because it's no longer this, it's this. So this is kind of interesting. You have a 17.17 margin. That makes sense why the 2nd district is actually going slightly in favor, like light blue, because it's like 58% Democratic, 57% Democratic. Still, that's a pretty embarrassing performance because Kamala Harris won this by almost 70% of the popular vote. That's embarrassing. 4th district, same deal. I want to believe that this district is probably going for the Democrat by 69%. Well, looking at the previous result, I think this district went to the Kamala Harris by 80%. This is bad. I mean, Republicans didn't gain anything but more morale. And I'll tell you why this morale is special, because Republicans, they can rest assured that there is a chance they can pull it off in Georgia next year. If this is why, and Republicans, we know they're the high propensity voters in Georgia. Okay? High propensity vote. That's why Republicans did so well. So that's what the Democrats would say. Oh, well, Republicans only did so well because they're the high propensity vote. They're the ones likely to go out and vote. And besides, this is a Democrat district. The Democrats know they're going to win this anyway. Yada, yada, yada. But the difference is in regards to the results. We've seen in the 2024 election, Supreme Court election, we know midterms. We know same deal in North Carolina. The North Carolina and Georgia, they're the high propensity vote. We know how Republicans did in the said Georgia race in the midterm races. Yeah, they did very well in the state level, but in the federal level, and that would be the Senate race, Republicans didn't do so well. Republicans got squashed by Raphael Warnock. I would say my concerns and opinions, it was probably an ingredient of they ran a non-politician. That's not the strategy to win. Oh, yeah, you're using name recognition like Mr. Walker, Herschel Walker, to gain votes. Yeah, sure, yeah, that's so great. But he's not experienced, and not only that, he had an embarrassing debate performance, and he didn't really strategize that well. He did not have a good campaign, and not to mention Raphael Warnock was viewed as a leader, especially for African-American Christians. And if you get African-American Christians to support the Democrats, which is basically anti-Christian at this point, it's pretty much guaranteed that the state of Georgia would be blue. So we're going to have to see how it goes in 2026, but I have a feeling that the governor's race, it's been Republican for I don't know how long, but I feel very good about the governor's race specifically because there are no major players for Democrats. They want to run, what's her name again? The fake prophet of the Democratic Party in Georgia, Stacey Abrams. She's expressed a run. And guess what? I have good news. I have big news for Stacey Abrams. She's going to lose even worse because 2018, they rejected her. After the 2020 election, they went and paraded Stacey Abrams around, crediting her for Georgia going blue. She runs again in 2022, thinking she's going to beat Brian Kemp. I have news for you. She loses that even bigger. And now she wants to run again. And she has publicly expressed a run. And obviously that is not going to go well for her. She's become extremely irrelevant. Maybe you can run Lucy McBath. Maybe she's the most likely answer. But then again, Chris Carr, he's a popular attorney general. He's basically set to win this thing. It's saying, oh, toss up. I'm basically saying this race is pretty much decided. Okay, this is a fake poll from 2023. It's been a while. But basically they're saying, oh, Stacey Abrams. But you don't really have a Republican up there. So this is a fake poll, in my opinion. Doesn't really work out. But in regards to that 2026 Senate race in Georgia, I think, you have John Ossoff. Ossoff, in my opinion, managed to win because of the coattail effect that Raphael Warnock gave in 2022. Basically giving, in 2020, in which they voted for the African-American turnout was still pretty high. Once again, African-American Christians, they're going for Raphael Warnock. They view him as a leader, and they said, oh, why not vote for Ossoff? That's why Republicans kind of need Brian Kemp, because he's way more popular compared to John Ossoff. Ossoff is popular, and as you can clearly see, he's defeating every one of these said popular, quote-unquote, GOP politicians in Georgia. So, really, I'm hoping that Brian Kemp gets on board with this. But if he doesn't, Republicans can't become complacent. They're going to have to choose which ones. We have a lot of good choices, and on paper, I would think it would be a close race. And I think we could possibly, if it really does depend on if African Americans, they're the key indicators on if Democrats can win Georgia. Are they going to show up and vote? Are the Christian Baptist African Americans going to back Ossoff? Or are they going to go Republican? It does depend. It really does depend there. But I don't think that Ossoff's campaign is going to be as strong and as successful as Warnock's campaign was in 2022. I just have a hard time seeing that because Warnock's way more popular than Ossoff, and he only performed a 4.2.3 point advantage over the Republican Raphael Warnock. So I have some good optimism. It really does depend if African Americans are going to deliver the victory for Ossoff or not. But the next we got to talk about is Minnesota, because Minnesota had a very important Senate race in 2020. Well, a Senate race last night. Not my district. This is Minnesota's 6th state Senate district, and we actually can pull that up. Minnesota Senate districts. So, you'll see here. Yeah, I want to know the numbers, though. Okay, so this is a special election. I think it's in central Minnesota. But we can take it because we need some context in this race. Okay, so this is, of course, this is just the national maps. We need state maps. We need this Senate state map. Okay, this is much better, but, okay, this is 2016, never mind. Okay, I just want 2025. This is ridiculous. Why? No, I mean, oh, look. This is the special election, District 60. But that's not the election we're talking about. We need Minnesota State Senate. Let's just put down state Senate districts. Map. Okay. I am not sure why. Of course, we do have this map, but okay, yeah, but that's very small. And for those who do not know, I have horrible eye vision, so I can't see so well. But I was told this. Oh yeah, right here, right. Actually, hang on, 6B, 6A. It's either this district or this district. We can actually see if they have a page on it. 2025 Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota 6 districts. Okay. So Republicans managed to win in a state Senate district. And this is obviously a solid Republican district. Why does this matter? And this is what the Democrats would say. Oh, you won a district that Donald Trump won by a wide margin. Congratulations. But we need context, though, because background, on March 17th, 2025, Senator Eichhorn was arrested during a sting operation on suspicion of soliciting a minor for sex. On March 20th, he was charged in federal court and resigned from the Senate as Republicans and Democrats prepared to expel him. On March 25th, Governor Tim Walz set April 29th, yesterday, 2025, as the date for the special election, and April 15th, 2025, for the primary election. District 6 covers parts of Itasca, Crow Wing, and Cass counties. The district has voted strongly Republican in recent years. Eichhorn won the 2022 election by 27 points, while Donald Trump carried the district by the same margin in 2024. So what was the margin that the winner, Carrie Heintzman, carried? Well, she had to have done that worse. The reason why I said that, say that is because to use the 2024 United States House of Special Election in New York 3, right? George Santos, he was convicted and removed from the House of Representatives. What happened as a result of that, you may ask? Well, Democrats ended up flipping that seat. After all, it is a very compatible seat. So you would think Republicans would have done the same. Democrats would have either flipped the seat or Republicans massively underperformed. What do you think what happened? I would think that. But that's what didn't happen. In fact, the very unlikely scenario ended up happening. Republicans overperformed, despite the latest senator being convicted for the worst crime imaginable, taking a child and soliciting that child for sex, a predatory action. So you got a predator Republican in jail, and you would think that the constituents would be so outraged they're either not going to vote Republican or they're just not going to vote at all. But that's not what happened. The constituents ended up voting Republican anyway. Democrats didn't show up. You see Carrie Heintzman is now the elected senator for this district. This district is right here. Right up here. This is the district. Ignore this. District 6A. Right here. And it is solidly Republican. The district overperformed. Trump had won the district like 50-some%, 56% some. Now, and Heitzman overperformed the president's margin by 4 points. This could be because of lack of Democrat turnout, lack of Democrat enthusiasm, and even though Democrats had the DFL had the ultimate opportunity of the lifetime, they could have went over there and said, "Hey, look!" They could have campaigned and said, "Hey, look, Republicans, they're so bad right now. They're so horrible with their this is really bad, yada, 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 yada. It can go off and on and off and on. And what ended up happening? I'll tell you what ended up happening. Republicans ended up winning by a lot. They didn't do that, right? Because, A, they probably didn't know, that they knew this race was going on because this was major news. But they probably were complacent, thinking, oh, we can't win this race. Even though, literally in Pennsylvania, Democrats won a seat that voted solid Republican, sadly. So, like, and that, I mean, it's not like that seat had a convicted senator that did the most outrageous thing. So they could have won the seat. If they did it in Pennsylvania, they could have won it here in the blue state of Minnesota. But not only did they lose, but they underperformed massively. Now, we talked about those two races. You would be like, oh, well, how does this, in fact, why does this even matter if you have these two districts? Minnesota doesn't matter, obviously, because this is a red district. It's not like it's statewide or something. True, that is true. But the point is, turnout is getting better in Minnesota. Because if the turnout was not good in this election, then the Republican Carrie Heinzman would have underperformed by quite a bit. But no, Republicans are turning out and voting despite their senator being convicted. This could be in rejection to St. Paul's radical far-left policies. And this could be out of rejection to the bogus, insane governor, Tampon Tim, and his radical policies, and the fact that he might run for governor. In fact, Tampon Tim, he's so unpopular in Minnesota, he is prone to probably lose if he were to run. Which I hope he does. Do it, Tampon Tim. That will help you in your presidential run. He's publicly expressed interest. His decision is coming this summer. Angie Craig is actually running in the Senate. For the Senate, she's going to be facing Peggy Flanagan. That should be an interesting race. But you already have Jeff Johnson, the former St. Cloud city councilor, running in this race. And you have people filing paperwork. You have Phil Parrish, and you got Brad Collar. These aren't good candidates. What I'd like is to see CEO Mike Lindell run. I would love to see that because we need it. Because he has the momentum. He is basically the Trump of Minnesota. Basically, in all honesty, people know him as the My Pillow guy. He's the guy. He's the perfect icon. Scott Jensen's great and all, and he tried to pull a Trump like he was like make Minnesota healthy again. Yada. He was the RFK of Minnesota at the time. People didn't fall for it though. I wouldn't say they fell for it. Minnesotans were not impressed. They were not impressed. They were not enthused. They didn't show up and vote. That's what really killed Jensen. And not to mention the abortion issue. He had said some stuff about abortion that's hurted him, and the far left media has taken advantage of that. But as you can clearly see, in regards to the no Minnesota governor has been elected to a third term. Yeah, Tim Walz would be that first governor. I don't think Minnesotans are that dumb, though. I don't think Minnesota's not going to let Tim Walz have that. So if he runs, I think that's an opportunity of a lifetime. And I think Tim Walz being so stupid and so eager for redemption, walking around saying, "Oh, Trump, you're so bad." And yeah, maybe people are saying he's publicly expressed for a presidency run, but yeah. But what if he loses this? But we're gonna have to see. Maybe his presidential run will be determined by this race. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to the news of this day? Republicans, Democrats people have been trashing them, even though Democrats are just as worse. I know a lot of people may have seen this right here. You know what, guys? I don't care what numbers Democrats throw at us. They take this poll, they throw it at us. You know what? It's equivalent, and I made the comparison on the community post. It's equivalent. This is as equivalent to Democrats taking a dead rabbit or your dog in other points. Your dog, your pet dog, taking a dead rabbit and placing it in front of you on your front doorstep. It happened to me and my mom once. My mom woke up to a dead rabbit on her front porch. This is exactly what Democrats will do. They will take this, like it's a dead rabbit, and they'll just put it in front of you like it on your porch. This is their tactic. You gotta treat it like a dead rabbit. This is obvious. We know that these are fake. Whoa, why are you in denial, they say? But I'm telling you, guys, we've had 8 years of this as experience. Every single time they've underestimated Donald Trump's support, Donald Trump's actual numbers. Donald Trump always rises in his approval rating, and I think overall it doesn't make sense, really, idealistically, that, okay, this is actually good numbers. These are better numbers for Republicans than they were in 2020. These numbers are generally higher than Donald Trump's approval in 2024, in the beginning of 2024, where he was defeating Biden in the polls. So plus you got to add a +5 to Donald Trump just to count for the error, because there's just so many, like, they have a history of it. In 2024, how were they so wrong about Kamala Harris? I don't know. How were they so wrong about Joe Biden winning Texas and Florida, North Carolina, and Iowa and Ohio? You got to add that in there. Add that in there. You say, okay, Donald Trump is way more popular than what it's seeing right now. I think it's generally 50-50 because you don't see people. I'm still seeing people running around with their Trump hats, even though Democrats are saying that, oh, Trump supporters have abandoned the Republican Party. Oh, whatever. I live in probably the most lukewarm Republican town ever, and people are still running around with MAGA hats. People still have their Trump signs and Trump flags out. Like, come on. We know these are the numbers, and the Democrats, they have the media, they have social media. They will put up what they want to put up. That's why you have the constant number. Yeah, I do think Americans are revolting to a point against the tariffs, but that itself isn't going to literally take down Donald Trump, even though immigration and the border crisis was probably the most pressing issue he was running on, and he completely reversed that issue. He fixed that issue completely. No more border crossings. That's what Americans were concerned about, and what we're seeing in the polls right now, Americans mostly approve of that. So I take this and say BS. I think, yes, Donald Trump is not high in approval rating, but he's not that low. Come on. 44% do not approve. I would say more likely 48, 47, or 49. We're being realistic here, and we're using history, and we're using the history of these polls, and knowing how they got the 2020, 2016, and 2024 elections completely wrong, and just apply it to this. It's not that hard. So, and besides, I mean, this is higher generally than 2020, 2017, and 2018. So, and we know how somewhat of a good job Republicans kind of did in 2018. I mean, you take a look at 2018 and you'll see, okay, generally, these races in the United States Senate election, Democrats could have very well won 2018. And the even though the election was favorable for Republicans, but let's just say Missouri, they had a very strong Democrat governor, Claire McCaskill. She was like the Sherrod Brown of Missouri. We take a look at her 2012 performance. Wow, she won most rural areas. And what the 2018 results told us, and during this time, got to remember, most people still believe the polls, even though Josh Hawley was winning, but it was 1 point, 2 point advantage. But most of all, it was still a toss-up. So Democrats could have very well won Missouri. Even in 2018 in North Dakota, Heidi Heitkamp was tossed out. You can clearly see that, it was most likely a leaning Republican. She was likely to lose. So I guess that wasn't really to be counted for. You got the conservative Joe Donnelly. And you'll see, yes, it's more of a toss-up. This was a battleground. And Republican, and you'll see Donnelly mostly won most of the polls, which was quite interesting, too. They could have kept the Senate if they had won Indiana, Missouri. And, hey, Bill Nelson, the famous NASA astronaut, people told us straight out, there was no beating Bill Nelson. No beating Bill Nelson. This was going to be a leaning or tilting Democrat. But Rick Scott, who was somewhat pretty popular, managed to take out Bill Nelson, who, taking a look at his previous performances, 55% in 2012, 60% in 2006, 50, and then he was getting way popular. This guy was big. He was, of course, known for being the astronaut, NASA astronauts, or like being Mark Kelly. But of course, we have the famous 2018 Florida election. So Republicans did have a lot of good moments for being the opposition party in 2018, even though 2018 they did horrible in the House. They did horrible in the gubernatorial races, putting Florida aside, but they had good moments. And I would say it wasn't really a bad year for Republicans, because we kind of expected this, knowing that Donald Trump's popularity was through the really bad, and not to mention we were the opposition party, and the opposition party. We weren't the opposition party. We're the party in power. Opposition party does very well, but Democrats didn't do very well at the polls were saying. So I would say, hey, look, guys, I think we're going to do way better than 2018. It's not going to be like a 2018 at all. We're going to do way better than 2018, even though I think we did good in 2018. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.